Hello and welcome to episode 106 of Retro Encounter, RPG Fans Off Topic Podcast. I'm Mike Sollosi, and I'm Monsoon on the boards. And, fellas, maybe I should stop calling this the Off Topic RPG Fan Podcast, because literally we have a different topic every episode.
We do.
It's a bit of a misnomer. I should rethink how we frame this at the beginning of every episode. But
You're gonna step on Rob's toes if you call it the Off Topic Podcast. Isn't that what random is?
I was gonna say we can't call it the Random Podcast.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Random is the current events podcast, and we are the not current events podcast. But that I don't know. We'll have some discussions about this. I'll message Rob sometime. But anyway, those two voices you heard briefly are my two co-hosts for today. First of whom is Peter Triezenberg.
Hi everybody, Peter Triezenberg. I have Fury on the boards.
And last of whom, only by coincidence, not last in my heart, is Rob Fenner.
I smell like I sound. I'm lost and I'm found, and I'm hungry like the wolf.
Oh my god. That is one of the best intros I've ever heard on this podcast. I'm so jealous.
It's topical. I don't even like that song.
Well, now you can bust it out again if we do like Okami in a year and a half or something. So
I smell an outro.
But we are not here to discuss Okami, even though I would not object to having that game be discussed in a future episode. We are here to discuss Shin Megami Tensei, Digital Devil Saga, Avatar Tuner, Part 1, but this is a Part 2 podcast of a Part 1 game, which is a little confusing to parse in my head. But the game is the Digital Devil Saga 1, and this is our second episode on that topic. Now, okay, fellas, I have to admit, I've had a very busy couple of weeks, both in my personal and work life and in writing RPG fan things, so I was not able to finish this game this time. I saved just after some cutscenes after the Ravana boss fight, and that's as far as I got. But I have beaten this game before, so I am prepared to discuss the ending and endgame scenarios and a little bit about what may happen in the sequel, which I have not played. And so, exactly where are you on playing this game for the podcast? Starting with Rob.
I am exactly where you are. I knew that I was not going to. I knew that I was not going to make it to the end this time, and I was, flailing, getting through Ajna and beating Ravana just before recording here. And over the past 15 minutes, I just, reacquainted myself with the end game and the events of that. So, yeah, I mean, like yourself, I've beaten this before, so I feel like I can still talk about it, even though that was quite a long time ago. But it's regretful that we weren't able to make it this time, but I think we're adequately prepared anyway.
Yeah, I think we can still have a good discussion, even if we haven't finished the game. And Peter, around how far did you get?
I am starting the attack on the brutes. So right after we met Lupa.
Okay.
Like I said, I didn't really. I have also had a very busy couple of weeks and haven't really had time to catch up. Which I do actually want to bring up later. A couple things about the game's design.
All right. Well, I mean, Ravana is the boss at the end of the brute space. So, I'm sorry, at the end of. Wait, no, yeah, the end of the brute space.
Yeah, the brutes.
Yeah. I was confusing the brutes and wolves for a second. So, you're probably only maybe 90 minutes behind where Rob and I are.
Gosh, those dungeons are big.
They are.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think architecturally they're maybe just medium-sized, but you're always going back to save points and sort of doing that Dragon Quest, get as far as you can, then escape and measure your progress as best as you can thing. So they seem bigger than they are, and they're already pretty big.
Well, yeah, sorry, Peter, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I was say I can get into one of my design things now. Then,
yeah, go for it.
Which is just that. Dungeon design in RPGs, I mentioned before, is it's something of a lost art, and I really appreciate this game's level design. But it's at the same time, it's also it's also kind of hard to go back to sometimes. It's like these are these super labyrinthine dungeons, lots of backtracking, lots of high random encounter rate, and it's a Shin Megami Tensei game. So sometimes if you get caught off guard in one of those random encounters, it's a trip to the game over screen, and you better have saved
Yeah,
recently. It can make those dungeons. Yeah, like you're gonna devote an entire play session like per dungeon.
yeah. It's I mean, it's probably even worse in Nocturne, but just one enemy critical hit can just sink. Like, you can lose 2 hours of gameplay just from that. And I also agree with you. I think that these are cool dungeons, but the size of them compounded with the higher random encounter rate turns them into slogs. And
For real.
it's really hard to balance that. And and maybe it was intended to be this difficult by the game's designers, but like, balancing the size of of the dungeon with the with the mechanics of the dungeon, with the density and challenge level of encounters in the dungeon. Those are all things that these game designers have to think about, and it's not an easy task making dungeons that feel meaningful and not too hard or too easy. Like, I don't know. Oh, I'm totally at a loss thinking of the perfect RPG dungeon right now, but it's they're balancing a lot of plates in that task, and I think that the dungeons in DDS are really good, but again, I know, and I was a broken record on the previous episode talking about this. The random encounter rate is a problem, and
Oh.
and in a perfect world, we would have a
Yeah.
slider and a fast forward button.
Oh yeah. I wanted to mention those items that
Hmm?
reduce the random encounter rate, like that last like maybe 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But they also only
They're worse than Pokemon repels. I mean, come on.
yeah, and they only fend off low-level demons too, don't they? So if you're in an area that you're suited for, it's not even going to do anything. At least I don't think so.
Yeah, it's just like what's even the point? They have the items that boost the encounter rate if you really want. Which I've used a couple of those just to grind for experience outside one of those shards that replenish your health.
Get those
But
Arahabakis.
Yeah.
yeah,
I was trying to remember their name in the previous episode, but the Phoenix enemies in the secret compartment in the brute space are Horuses,
Oh,
which are
okay,
the
like
which are these.
the Egyptian bird
Yes. Well,
with
I
the
mean,
very, very bright one.
yes,
Yeah.
it's a very, very bright one. In Egyptian myth, Horus is usually a man with a bird's head, but in SMT, it's a very, very shiny golden phoenix-looking thing.
Mm.
And
It's a palace swap of Hezrevelger, isn't it?
oh, it might be. I'm
I
not
think
sure.
it is. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the other big money EXP karma enemy in the game, and I use those repels to fight it because if you use them, then it'll be the only enemy you encounter in that room. And so those Horuses and Arhabakis are the XP grinding enemies in this game.
Hmm.
But Arhabaki might be easier because they just get wrecked by Cositus.
Yeah. Is that how you say that?
I'm not sure. It's
I
a
always said cactus, but I've never actually,
well, I mean, it's a I think it's a it's a location.
it probably is Casitas, isn't it?
I've heard it pronounced Cocytus before, but
It's a location in Hades that's like sort of a frozen hell.
Huh.
And so it probably should have a Greek K on it. I'm not sure how it's
yeah.
I'm not sure
it
how
does
it's
have a Greek K.
I'm
So
not
it
sure
looks
how
like
it's
it would
pronounced.
It looks like it would be kokitos from the Greek that I'm very barely familiar with.
It's I don't know because also like the Greek K can be hard or soft. I'm not exactly sure how it goes. Again, so it's but it is. I mean, that spell is what uses. I think you learn it from the. What's the special
King
class?
Frost, I think.
Yeah, is it called King Frost? Because I know you fight the King Frost enemy to get it. Is that what the class is called? I don't remember.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well, you fight the side quest to beat King Frost, and he gives you a special class, and then you can learn Kokitos or whatever that spell is.
oh yeah,
And
what level should you be for that class? Out of curiosity, because I have found like the pyro jacks that are just floating around with the giant treasure chest.
that one's not very challenging. If you
Yeah, that's the easiest.
if you equip some ice defenses on your characters, then it's maybe even laughably easy. So you can probably do it. You might be ready for it now. The ones you have to be worried for are the Beelzebub quests and the Suling quests are the sort of the end game starter ones, And then there's the Demi Fiend, which is, oh boy.
Just don't even.
Like,
You don't get anything for
like
it.
maybe watch it on YouTube.
I just watched it on YouTube. It was a 38-minute video, and
oh,
it was just
jeez.
that battle.
And that was probably that guy's 38th attempt as well.
Probably.
And also one thing, I should let's just jump into these super bosses right now. The Digital Devil Saga has a bunch of end game optional bosses, and they convey some pretty okay rewards. You get special classes from 4 of them: King Frost, Beelzebub, Koryu, and Michael. I think is.
Michael's in the sequel. I don't remember if he's here.
No, who's the one that you fight here? I never did that one. I only did King Frost and Beelzebub in my first playthrough.
Well, after you defeat all the Su Ling, you fight Huang Long.
Oh yeah, which is
it's
Metatron. Okay,
yeah.
I use the Japanese name Koryu, but the because very confusingly, for the Su Ling are 4 beasts from Chinese myth. I think each of them represents a quadrant of the night sky, maybe.
That's right. They're also cardinal.
Right, yeah, the cardinal
cardinal
directions, yeah, and in the an anime I used to love dearly, Yu Yu Hakusho, there are 4 monsters that they fight in the underworld, but they use the Chinese names in Digital Devil Saga, and in the Persona games and in later Shin Megami Tensei games they use the Japanese names. So so the final boss in the Sealing quest is Huanglong in DDS and which is Koryu, the big golden dragon in of the golden dragon of the center, I should say, in the Persona series. And but the one annoying thing about, I think this is true of Huanglong, Metatron, and the Demi Fiend, you have to get to the very final save point in the tower in the tower.
That's right.
Of Sarasrala, and then backtrack all the way out of it. Before those quests are even unlocked, which is exactly the reason why I did those earlier boss quests, Beelzebub and King Frost, and never did the others. But
they're worth doing if you if you're interested in playing the sequel.
I am interested in doing those, and when I was playing this for the podcast, that I intended to do them, but again, I just. I was really busy these past 2 weeks, and and I even did some RPG fan writing, which is not something I do a lot, and that took up a lot of my set aside work on RPG fan things time.
It's not something to do for an episode of Retro Encounter, I'd say. It's extra homework.
But those boss fights are cool. The Su Ling ones, where you have to fight the 4 the 4 beasts, and then you fight Koryu, seem to be a bit of an exercise in weakness mitigation, because each of them is exclusively one type of elemental damage, and which is and this is me doing research and watching YouTube. Again, I haven't fought these guys before. And then Koryu himself, or Huanglong himself, cycles through weaknesses and different attack types and is very powerful and does a lot of damage, but that boss fight seems unusually choreographed. He'll always have the same attack pattern. So even though he's very powerful and has a lot of defenses, if you know that attack pattern, you can work around it and beat him. Is my interpretation.
We've seen this kind of boss in Shin Megami Tensei before, the one that, changes configuration to change its spells and weaknesses, and in fact, I don't think it has any weaknesses, but it's it changes its defenses. But yeah, as you said, it is very, very choreographed. It's really mitigated by that.
And I mean, that's interesting to me at some level. The loop of solving that boss fight would be determining the pattern or looking it up ahead of time, and then strategizing around that pattern. And it's a cool boss fight. I mean, I always like fusing Koryu in Persona games, because he always has big defenses and either lightning or healing spells. He's always at the end of the Hierophant social link, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, that's maybe the most interesting of the boss fights to me. Beelzebub is sort of more of a traditional boss fight.
He's my favorite, though. Just like the whole, just a regular angry man transforming into Beelzebub. I love that.
And I mean, the giant Lord of the Flies design for the Shin Megami Tensei Beelzebub is a cool monster design.
Yeah.
And that one is the one I have done before, and the quest reward's pretty good. What does that class give you? I'm trying to remember.
I think that gives you his Death Flies ability.
Right,
And
and maybe some good weakness mitigation thing. I'm assuming.
I've got it. I can't remember what it does, but yeah.
And do they have some? They have some bonuses that carry over to Digital Devil Saga 2. You mentioned.
Yes,
Yes.
I think all of the boss fights, including Demi Fiend, have some kind of is it an accessory that carries over?
Yeah, there's you equip rings in the sequel.
Okay.
The Demi-Fiend, like his ring isn't even the best ring you can get, so it's like really not even worth fighting him. But the Beelzebub one protects the wearer against death attacks, and it's really, really handy early in the game.
That is handy because there's an abundance of death attacks in these games.
Yeah, and like for conversely, Metatron gives you immunity to expel, and like Hama.
That's also good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so each of them awards you a ring in the sequel.
And maybe we've been dancing around it. The Demi-Fiend is the main character of Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, the boy with unusual tattoos or markings on him. And I think you can only fight the Demi-Fiend in a New Game Plus of Digital Devil Saga, and
That's right.
He is brutally difficult. I have heard horror stories of it as being one of the most difficult optional bosses in RPG history. I have never attempted to fight him before, and I don't know if I'm interested in doing it because there's even probably too much randomness in being able to beat him or not, and that doesn't appeal to me. Even if I do follow through and finish this playthrough and carry it over to Digital Devil Saga 2, I don't think I'm fighting the Demi-Fiend.
I wouldn't mind seeing him, but I don't think it would be a serious attempt. I liked seeing all the cameo bosses in the 3DS Soul Hackers, but I didn't really make a serious attempt on any of them. I just wanted to see them in there.
All right.
Yeah, it's cool at least that this game has a bunch of Shin Megami Tensei demons as optional boss battles. It's interesting to see that, and it was cool beating up on some of my favorite personas. When I did these boss fights, or I did the first two of these boss fights a couple of years ago when I played this game, because I mean I was fighting this with the context, these are all personas that I could summon, even though they're more accurately SMT demons that you can summon. So anyway, I think it's enough talk about optional boss fights. Let's go back to the main game.
I wanted to mention very, very quickly. It's just something that the sequel does, and this isn't a spoiler because it's not plot related. But like how DDS1 has the four Suling and then Huang Long, DDS2 has the four Archangels, and it's got like this really cool thing that they do in the plot where it's just ordinary people, but then they transform into Michael and Gabriel. And the other two, who I can't remember,
Raphael and Uriel.
That's right. There you go. And they're losing their sanity, and they're like speaking like there's still humanity inside of me, but now I have this unquenchable urge to become an exterminating angel and bring about Yahweh's will, and that's really fun.
Is there a cap-off boss fight after Michael, or is Michael the last of the four, and that's it?
I'm pretty sure there is a final battle tying them all together, but I didn't get that far.
I know Satan is like the DDS2 super boss that you have to be.
Maybe that's it.
Of the Demi-Fiend, I think.
Well, so that's cool. But let's back it up a little bit and talk about the story proper. Where we left off, I believe that we defeated Bat and Kamazotz at the end of the ship, and we started interacting with the wolves and the brutes. And I think that those two leaders are an interesting contrast, because you have Lupa with the wolves, who is extremely honorable, and your characters, especially Gale, they're very cautious at first, but then they develop a maybe slightly begrudging respect for him as you go through the mandatory sewer dungeon, and then you end up fighting his avatar form when he loses his mind a little bit. And he loses his mind because of Ravana's powers, correct?
That's right.
Right.
I didn't see it as a begrudging respect. I saw it as like they had quite a deep respect
yeah,
for him,
like
and it was a tragedy what happened to him.
yeah. Well, you're right. It was a genuine respect. Um, but I mean, I think they were definitely cautious at first because they,
Oh yeah.
these people existed to fight each other at one point. And then by contrast, you have the leader of the Brutes, Varen, who seems fully aware of his other life.
Call him Beck.
Yeah, right. Because
He's a loser. Why don't you kill him?
but we mentioned this in the previous episode. These characters are developing personalities and feelings and emotions as the game goes on, and it becomes more clear in the second half of DDS1 that they're remembering a past life of some kind, and they're not sure why or who these people that they are becoming are, but Varen or Beck totally completely remembers who he was in whatever there was before the junkyard. So that's and I think he might be the only character in the entire game who has that level of awareness, other than the manipulating angel that's running the show. So so yeah, thoughts on Lupa and Beck? So someone besides me is talking for once.
After you, Peter.
I mean, truth be told, like I said, I haven't really caught up yet. So I do like. I think Beck seems like an interesting persona. I like that cutscene where he's like arguing with Angel, that little flashback because again that's a broader hint to the narrative to come. And one thing about this game that I think is can be a little difficult to make it a little more not impenetrable, but a little difficult to get into compared to your Personas or other S&T games is because of how long it takes for the characters to kind of become realized. They start up, and like I said, it's an interesting concept. These people are becoming more aware of their humanity, and developing personalities. Eventually, they start growing into more developed characters. But at first, it kind of becomes hard to latch onto because they act so detached and alien. And so I think back being like suddenly now I have become self-aware and I'm kind of pissed about it. Is an interest. I think that's an interesting portent of what's to come.
Yeah, exactly. That cutscene where Beck argues with Angel really threw me off the first time I played this game because I got the idea. Oh, he's way further along in his emotion evolution or whatever you want to call that than most of the other characters are. What the hell is going on? Why is this even happening? That was thoughts running through my head like seeing that cutscene, and it's cool foreshadowing, but also Beck is a serious asshole because his one of his powers that his avatar has is to force hunger into other people transformed into demons, and he uses that power on Lupa and forces Lupa to transform into Cerberus. And I think in the previous episode I mentioned that Kamazotz is the only avatar not inspired by Hindu folklore or Central Asian folklore, and I was wrong because there's also Cerberus. I've forgotten all about that dude. And that Cerberus boss fight is a little tricky if you don't have fire protection on because he is just a lot of offense.
Mm-hmm. You really need those stat debuffs, and the Dikunda and Dikaja work wonders there as well.
Yeah, those two and Null Fire if you can afford it, because his big fire spell that I don't want to try to pronounce right now does a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm.
And I had read this when I was playing this game for the first time, but if you have a save file from this game carrying on to the second one, then Gale learns that fire spell in the late in the game in DDS2, which is very appealing to me. It's like, yeah, that's something I probably want. So yeah, infiltrating the brute space, you fight Cerberus at roughly the halfway point, and then you fight Ravana roughly the end point. And the Cerberus boss fight is just a lot of. I mean, there's 3 heads, 2 of which regenerate. A lot of fire attacks and physical attacks. So having null fire and debuffing that enemy is very helpful. And in the Ravana fight, which I think is easier than the Cerberus fight, but has a little bit more gimmicks around it. He'll disappear into one of 6 empty space locations, and you have to hit him with an attack to have him reveal himself, and then deal damage to him, and then he turtles up and starts making your characters fight each other with his hunger spell or whatever it is, which is like it's a little bit more technical than the Cerberus fight, but it's a little easier because he doesn't deal nearly as much damage. And that is a cool little bit of folklore, I guess. His avatar Ravana is the quote unquote final boss of the Ramayana, the demon that Rama is trying to rescue his rescue. What's her? Oh shoot, is it Lakshmi? No. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm not familiar enough with the Ramayana, I'm afraid.
Shoot. I can't remember the girl in the Ramayana.
Sita is Rama's wife, apparently.
Sita, that's it. Okay, yeah. So Rama's rescuing Sita from Ravana, who is in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, the king of Sri Lanka, I believe.
Yeah.
Or the king deity, rather.
Mm-hmm. And he has Hanuman as his sort of most prominent buddy that accompanies him through the journey. And Hanuman might be the exact same figure as the Monkey King from Chinese folklore, but it's uncertain, like which is the chicken and egg in that situation. And is Sun Wukong in Shin Megami Tensei games?
He is, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Oh, shit, he has a different name though.
No, he is Sun Wukong.
In the Persona games, he's Seitan Taisei. That's what.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm confusing myself with
right.
Japanese versus Chinese names again.
They made him Sun Wukong again in SMT4.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So yeah, where were we?
We were talking about
the Ramayana and the brute space and
Lupa and Varen.
Oh man, I'm all over the place this episode. I'm sorry, guys.
Like, I wanted to feel sympathy for Lupa. It's kind of difficult though because I feel for him and his kid, but he's too much of like the magical Native American for me. He's incredibly cliche, just like the honorable tribesman, and it's just a little bit absurd, especially when paired up with some of the other tribe leaders. He feels really, really out of place and pretty stereotypical.
I think that the visual design of him contributes to that stereotype more than a little bit, because I mean the hair and the markings really do have that sort of North American shamanistic look to him, and magical Native American is a fair criticism of what his kind of character is. I liked him as this honorable character that you feel bad for having to defeat, in the same way that similar to Janana. But
I love having a boss that you don't hate that you have to fight.
I think I felt more strongly about Janana because they pace your relationship with her over a longer period, and I think that her design and look aren't as problematic as Lupa's. But yeah, if they had introduced Lupa a little earlier, and if his design wasn't so obviously, like T-Hawk from Street Fighter 2, then I would like him a little better. But again,
the token magical minority who's written to die in the story, and it's just a bit.
Oh boy. We don't need more of those.
But Varen Omega, on the other hand, I like him a lot. The sociopathic, hard military man. He reminds me a lot of the general from Akira.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I like his dungeon a lot. Well, I feel like it's cool, but it just draws things out too much. And I would have appreciated a little bit more plot than a bunch of boss battles leading up to him that don't really add a whole lot. But this even his dungeon reminds me quite a bit of Akira, like the facility where the psychic children are being kept, like a decrepit version of that.
Yeah, and that whole dungeon it reminded me of the of Mick the Slug's base a little bit, in that it's sort of a big, interesting stronghold with a lot going on.
Yeah.
And again, we're talking about this game having really cool dungeon design that is has its problems manifest in other ways. But
well, something occurred to me when I was fighting Varen Omega. And like it definitely didn't occur to me when I first played this game, and I was like surprised that it didn't come to me earlier. But so it's dawned on me that the junkyard is it's a metaphor for the realm of hungry ghosts from the Wheel of Samsara. So
okay,
Samsara,
I'm not familiar with this. Go on, please.
Samsara is the Hindu cycle of death and rebirth, and Samsara reaches its end when when living beings achieve enough knowledge to reach nirvana. And if you fail to reach nirvana in your lifetime, your karma accrual sends you to one of 6 afterlife locations. So like from best to worst, there's like the realm of divas, which is basically heaven. But because it's so hedonistic, that means there's like a lack of spiritual pursuits, which means you can't achieve nirvana in a lifetime in heaven. And then, you have to repeat the cycle. And then below that, there's the realm of asuras, where, these supernatural, angry deities live. And below that is the human world, where your rebirth as a human and what your circumstance is governed by your karma. And that's considered to be a desirable position, because that will allow you to gain more knowledge and have another shot at reaching nirvana and ending the cycle. And below that is the animal realm, where you come back as an animal. And then below that is the realm of hungry ghosts, where everybody comes back as a preda, which is seen in the SMT series. The endlessly hungry ghost who is gluttonous and just constantly needs to fill a insatiable hunger until they pay off all their bad karma and get to repeat the cycle again. And then, even lower than that is hell, Naraka. So as we see at the end of this game, like, yes, these people have, in fact, no, as we see in the battle with Varen Omega, yes, these people have been cast into an afterlife location where they all have to just eat endlessly and endlessly and endlessly. And I thought that was a really, really smart metaphor they've put together here.
And maybe the tower represents ascending to one heaven above the realm of hungry ghosts.
Well, it's supposed to be reaching nirvana, isn't it? That's the ultimate goal, and nirvana exists at the top of the tower.
Yes, but I mean, if this is a metaphor for samsara, then it skips some steps going from the realm of hungry ghosts to nirvana.
Well, spoilers, it goes to the human world.
Okay. And that makes sense with
It does. Nirvana is not nirvana.
Right. Well, that makes sense with the end cutscenes of the game as well.
That's right.
So, should we talk about the tower a little bit? I'm sorry, Peter, if you haven't played this far.
No, it's okay. I am familiar with some of the ending, the stuff that goes on at the ending and the lead end to Digital Devil Saga 2. So yeah, please spoil away.
Because, well, I mean, consistent with a lot of the other dungeons in the game, it is enormous and cool, but a bit of a woof. Maybe not. Maybe don't finish it in one sitting kind of deal. Because man, that
sounds
thing is
like an SMT final dungeon to me.
Yeah, it's not as circuitous or confusing as something like that. Like that world map that Rob showed me at the end of Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, which looks like something out of a nightmare. But yeah,
it's not that bad.
Yeah, this one's not that bad in comparison. Wait, really? The one in Apocalypse?
Oh, no, never mind. Yeah, that's horrible.
Okay.
That's way worse than this.
Yeah, this one's not bad, but it is long, and there's a lot of boss fights in it. And
this moment that sticks out in my memory of being like the most striking and cool moment is when you head into the basement where everybody's being reborn in the sea of milk, and the Serpent King Vasuki is churning the milk, and it comes out to attack you. It's kind of like a nightmarish moment. I really, really like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a bunch of cool boss fights in general, because you have to fight Garuda and Jatayu either at the same time, I think. Around the midpoint, or maybe a little bit past the midpoint. There's just a bunch of really cool non-random encounter scenes going up the tower that made it a pretty memorable sequence, the entire final dungeon for me. And the dialogue with the angel who you fight as Harihara,
Hmm.
I still don't understand everything that happens in that exchange. But and I assume it makes more sense once you play the second game. But of course, I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I'm not going to give anything away
All
other
right.
than, yeah, you're in the human world and you're finding out what exactly all this means.
Awesome. I want to find out exactly what all this means. So I will play that game eventually, but I don't know exactly when that'll happen.
It's a time sink,
Yeah, and there's always too
but
many
I'd
video
love for us to
games.
do another episode on it.
Yeah, I think that if and when Peter and I, or maybe just one of us, plays the second game, we'll have a one-off episode on it. But I don't know if it'll be a full two-part game journal because we'll see
Yeah,
what
that
the
would be a big ask.
yeah, it's a big ask, and we'll see what kind of time demands we have for future episodes. But I mean, how good is Shin Megami Tensei at incorporating myth? It is so cool, all of these designs I feel like every time I play a new SMT game, I feel like I'm learning more about, either about a, a mythology I'm not familiar with, or even more demons in Solomon's Key, or something.
I mean, the thing is, they always do their homework. They always bring their A game, and that's what I think makes this series so special. And by doing so, it inspires me anyway. And I'm sure the same can be said of yourselves and many of its fans to do the further research and get more familiar with some of these religious and mythological figures that you might not have context for before. So I think it's great that Borscht is right here. Hey, Borscht. I think it's great that they're kind of it's more than Bahamut being a dragon instead of a fish. They're really
Right.
I don't know. It inspires a lot of learning, and how useful that learning will be. Um, who can say? Probably not very. It's really trivial, but
Well, yeah. I mean, there's if anything, I notice the incongruities more than I notice the depth and breadth of the myths that they touch, because
uh-huh.
like Ravana is supposed to be a multi-headed, multi-armed demon, like a lot of asuras and devas in Central Asian folklore, but
Yeah, they
instead,
take a lot of liberties in
yep.
this game with
But
their main.
instead they have it be sort of this unusual Kaneko design with long arms and a small mouth that becomes a large mouth,
Yeah.
which is I think more attached to the metaphor of hunger, or the concept of hunger, than what Ravana looks like in myth. And then maybe this is very unimportant, but it's always bothered me that except in Persona 3 and in this game, most SMT games have Cerberus as a lion with a snake tail, and
Yeah,
I
that's like
don't
a mana core. It's really
yeah I
it
don't
always
know
throws me.
I don't know why that is, because I mean this design of Cerberus is cool, and I mean the Koromaru Cerberus, that's I think a Doberman, or a with three heads, is like, these are really good interpretations of Cerberus, and then you have this dumb white lion thing in every other game. Why is that?
Well,
Because
I think
I'm not.
they're trying to do like a Pokemon thing of evolving Orthus into Cerberus, and it doesn't really work like that.
Oh, but
Hmm.
Orthus is a two-headed dog. So
uh, yeah,
so
but
so why does
they took his head away
so why
instead
do they
of
take
adding
one
another
head
one.
away? Yeah,
It's they are confused.
yeah, man. They should incorporate a one-headed dog, like I don't know, maybe Garm from Norse myth or something, and then have it like Garm to Orthrus to Cerberus would be a great three-stage Pokemon evolution for the SMT world. But no,
That would be pretty sweet.
they don't go that direction, and it's frustrating. It's like, man, why is Cerberus a white lion? That is, I have said that way too many times, being a literalist mythological asshole that I am.
Yeah, I mean they could oh, I don't know. But they've already got a mana core as well, so they've basically just got like two manticores.
And well, a Manticore is a human-faced lion with a serpent
That's got a snake tail,
I thought it
right?
was a scorpion
And bat
tail.
wings?
I thought it's a scorpion tail for a Manticore.
A scorpion tail, yeah, that's right.
I'm not. They may or may not have wings. I'm not sure. I think it does have wings. It's a chimera that usually doesn't have wings.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of that.
No, chimera doesn't have wings. I think manticores maybe do have wings. Because okay, manticores in one of the old Heroes of Might and Magic games I played definitely did have wings, because it was the only flying unit that Warlock
Mhm.
Town had. But that is a strategy magic-y game and not an RPG. So we're not going to have a Heroes of Might and Magic 3 episode anytime soon.
We could have a Might and Magic 3 episode.
We could. Oh God,
I don't think anybody wants to.
Yeah, who wants to go back and play one of those? Not me, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So if that somehow happens, I won't be hosting that one. Peter, Might and Magic 3, you dig it?
I might dig it. Can I dig it?
Sure. No, man. Now I'm thinking of just the "Can you dig it" scene from the beginning of The Warriors. Now that's something we should do a podcast on. How the Warriors basically created Final Fight and Streets of Rage.
Those famous RPGs.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They really informed so much of Japanese game design for a while.
Yeah, God, like between the Warriors and Escape from New York and I guess maybe Star Wars and Alien, how much Japanese games were informed by those four sci-fi movies?
That's so good.
It's an enormous amount. Every gamer in the world needs to watch Escape from New York and The Warriors because they'll see so much of their favorite video games in those movies. And I say that unironically because I love both of those. So, man, all right, we've gone from talking about Central Asian folklore to Escape from New York starring Kurt Russell. So, how close are we to the end of the podcast? I don't even know anymore.
Well, I've been reading the book.
Oh yeah,
the first one.
But yeah, talk about the book.
Yeah, you brought up Quantum Devil Saga in the previous episode, and it's a series of what was it, 5 or 7 books in Japan?
5.
And the first 2 are available in English and with official translations. So have you read one or both of those first 2?
I wasn't able to get on to book 2. I have read the bulk of book 1. It's I think it's a worthy video game adaptation, and that's a very, very low bar to clear. But it's almost grimmer than the game. It does this thing that books do a lot better than visual media, and that is, in-depth descriptions of exactly how horrifying and painful these body transformations are to undergo, and like a feeling of pain that is so overpowering that it breaks the mind. And so hearing the embryons how they're feeling by going through this, it's got some harrowing moments.
So it really gets into the hunger and transformation body horror elements of this game of Digital Devil Saga in maybe greater depth or greater detail.
It does. It also gets into like the spell casting of the series in an interesting way. It doesn't always work because like throwing fireballs. I don't care a whole lot about that, but there's some descriptions of like Argila using her gravity magic and just like tearing nasty bloody holes through her foes. Harley gets bisected by one of these attacks. Harley's transformation in particular, and a lot of the villains' transformations, when they would correspond to an SMT demon rather than a demon that belongs in this mythology, it's kind of like a Tetsuo-esque, like swelling and tendrils reach out, and
I would add Akira to the list of films that every video game or RPG enjoyer should watch. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it gets pretty gory and body horror-y, and there's not really any room for some of the comic relief moments that happen in the game. It's very, very straight-laced. It's pretty well written too and well translated. So I would recommend those. Gale's interesting too. He's basically a mentat. He's a complete ripoff of Hawat from Dune. But they go into more detail as to how Gale exists and what it means to be in his role. They've given him this special role as a bishop, and every tribe has their own bishop who who's essentially a mentat from Dune, and like they're born with these special abilities, and then they're like taken away to be trained and conditioned to be a human computer. And like his hood's not just a cool, stylish thing; it's like filled with electrodes and a connection to the central computer of the Karma Temple to like, you know, feed him information, and he's recording things through his eyes. It's a nice fleshing out of you know, the stoic tactician into like I guess like an unabused and tortured subset of the population of this world.
See, now that's really interesting, and that's the kind of background I kind of wish was in the main game a little bit.
Yeah, it really excels there, where the game kind of
because
doesn't go as far.
But that's also the kind of thing that a detail that would be easier to convey in a book than in a game. Well, I mean, which you went into a little bit before describing parts of the book, Rob. Mm-hmm. And this has me very interested in reading those 2 books that are available in English. Do we know if they're going to eventually do the whole series, or if that's or if they're sort of mum on that? Because it was something like 2 or 3 years between the English releases of the first 2.
Yeah, it was 3 years, and like this second book, I don't even think it got announced. I think it just like dropped out of nowhere, unless I'm mistaken. But that's what it seemed like to me. So I was like, oh wow, because I was waiting to get this first book for a really long time, because I was just thinking, well, like if the others aren't going to come, who knows? But you know, doing this podcast inspired me to want to read it. I really do hope they bring out the remaining 3 books, because they stretch out this story. The first book just covers like from the prologue up to the fight with Janana, and the second book carries on from there. So the whole Quantum Devil Saga is going to be a long one.
So does Quantum Devil Saga cover the events of both games, or just the first game?
That's a good question. I think it would be both games. I hope it would be both games, because I'd like to see what they do with that. It seems like you couldn't really just do one without the other.
I would agree.
I also can't see this being spread out to 5 books.
Excellent. I am very interested in those books, and now recording this and playing parts of the first game again has me more interested in reading those. So, and you said it was they're written by the person who worked on this game as a writer but had to drop out of the project, and then revisited the project in this series of books, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yu Godai, she did some other adaptations as well. Panzer Dragoon and an adaptation of Valkyrie Profile.
Oh, weird. I'm not really
Japan only.
Are you familiar with any of Yu Godai's other works? Because I don't know the first thing about her writing.
I know that she did Glass Rose, which was adapted by Capcom into a Japan and Europe only adventure game about time travel.
Huh.
But the Quantum Devil Saga, those are the only books that in English. So I'm pretty unfamiliar with her work.
Okay, well, I may jump into Yu Godai's oeuvre maybe even later this year. We'll see, because I am interested in those Quantum Devil Saga books at least. But all right, if we've moved from Hindu folklore to late 70s, early 80s action sci-fi movies into the works of Yu Godai, I think we're at the end of the episode.
We might very well be.
Unless anyone has a specific thing they want to bring up before we close out.
No, not particularly. Do we want to just do some kind of final general thoughts?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think this game is cool and stylish, and I wish the random encounter rate was so high, but if any of this sounds cool, or if you are more interested in the greater SMT universe, I would heartily recommend Digital Devil Saga 1. And, okay. Rob, you go next.
Same here. I think this foibles aside, and those are mostly due to the random encounter rate, and some of the length of some of these dungeons. I think this is still remains one of my favorite PS2 RPGs. And if you have time, which a lot of us don't these days now that we're older, I would say dig into it. But I mean, do be prepared. Like I was doing the Samsara tunnels while on the exercise bike, and like it took me over an hour. So I got a good workout. But nowadays, like because my time is limited, I want something where like I can pick up and like do a discrete session and feel like I'm making progress. But if I'm, spending over an hour in a sewer, it's a bit, come on. If you're a fan of SMT, I think these are unmissable. You might not have to play both, but I'd say at least play the first one and then look into the second one.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much on the same page as you in terms of the mechanics and I think it's a really good game. I love the classic SMT style, but as life goes on and time becomes more limited, we come to appreciate those quality of life improvements a lot more, I think. And I would love to see Atlas revisit this series and maybe give it the HD remake treatment. But other than that, I don't want to say that I'm disappointed entirely because I think the setting is really cool. And I think now that the further you get on, the characters start to become more developed, like I said. But I think that slow start might be kind of a bear to overcome if you're here for the story. It definitely has a really cool premise, but it takes a while for the characters to really start developing. And I think that also had a bit of an impact on my engagement with it. But I'm definitely curious to see this one through. I just got a new I got an old CRT for like $20. So I'm going to be playing this game in not eye-searing quality anymore. And who knows? I want to get back. I have the second one, so we'll see where this goes.
Rad. Great.
Yeah, I have an old, I think 32-inch CRTV that was sitting in my basement for a couple years, and I live in a townhouse, so I had to take it up to my room. I had to go up 2 long flights of stairs carrying that damn thing. But that was for when we played Shadow Hearts earlier this year. So I was very fortunate to have it handy for when I continued on to play Tales of the Abyss and now Digital Devil Saga. So yeah, I'm not taking that thing back downstairs just because.
No kidding, it just stays there.
Yeah, no, it is here for good now. Sorry, next person that moves into this house. So, yeah, Digital Devil Saga. We all three of us like it and recommend it, but there are some caveats involved, and it's not a short or breezy game at all. Which I mean, being none of the three of us are in high school anymore, so we don't have as much time as we used to, which is a very sad capstone to this podcast, I'm afraid.
And I know someone listening to this is probably just going to be like, "Oh, y'all just need to just get good and put aside your responsibilities and focus on the games." But
I have a mortgage.
I can't do that, anonymous internet person with way too much time on their hands.
Yeah, I'm still an anonymous internet person, but I no longer have way too much time on my hands, so I am not making that comment on GameFAQs.com anymore. Oh boy. So that's it for episode 106. Thank you so much, listeners, for putting up with us. We have a lot of exciting content in Retro Encounter in the coming weeks. Next week, we're having a special Halloween episode, which I will not be on, but I'm looking forward to this, to hear what haunting and or spooky things that the Retro Encounter panelists have to discuss there. But I will be on the episode following that because Josh Curry is going to come out of retirement for him and I to discuss Blizzard games like we do every November. And so that will be 2 weeks from this episode. And after that, I think I've been playing coy about this a little bit too much, maybe, on the podcast. At the end of every episode, we've been like, "Oh, but we have something special planned for November, ha ha ha," and maybe be playing a little unfair doing that. We're going to be celebrating the 30th anniversary of Final Fantasy at the end of the year here on Retro Encounter. There's going to be similar content going on the main site, a lot of essays, a lot of special cross-site features that all three of us here have contributed towards, but those won't be showing up right now. Next month in November, you'll see the first of the RPG Fan Final Fantasy anniversary content. And we're going to have 4 Retro Encounter episodes in a row, all about Final Fantasy-specific topics. That is middle and end of November, and I believe the first week of December. We're going to have 4 Final Fantasy episodes in a row of Retro Encounter. I believe 2 of them will be about specific games, and 2 of them will be about sort of not game-specific topics, but I won't say exactly what those are yet. So, to still play a little coy for now. Officially, Final Fantasy I came out in Japan in December of 1987, so we are going to be exactly on time in celebrating Final Fantasy in fall and winter of 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please look forward to it.
I know everyone's Final Fantasy experience is different, but just about everyone on staff in RPG Fan has something to say about Final Fantasy. So those features and in these podcasts, and maybe even Rob will do something for Random Encounter, or Scott and Christoph and those other guys will be streaming some Final Fantasy stuff. There's going to be a lot of Final Fantasy going on in RPG Fan in November and maybe also early December. And we're all really excited to share all the stuff we've been working on with you guys. But that at the time of this publishing, not quite yet. Wait a couple more weeks. So I think that's about all I need to say about the future of Retro Encounter for now. Oh, never mind. I lied. We're right after the Final Fantasy stuff is done. We're gonna have 2 episodes about Breath of Fire 4 in December. That was which the public voted on following our episode 100 poll. So there's gonna be no 2-part game journal in November, but December we're having Breath of Fire 4 discussed over 2 episodes, and I think it's Peter. I think that's going to be you, Alana, and I. Is that correct? Is that who we have signed up?
Yep. I think that's who's
right.
That's who's going to be on it. I'm excited to check this one off my list.
So, starting with you, Peter, if a listener wants to get in touch with you somehow, how would they do so?
Well, if a listener wants to get in touch with me, then they can find me on Twitter at IHaveFury. That's the same as my forum handle. You can PM me on there. And you can also reach me at peterT@rpgfan.com.
Excellent. And Rob Fenner, same question to you.
You can find me in the realm of Hungry Bob's. God, I'm starving right now. I'm on the boards as Townscar Marty at the Halloween party, and I'm on Twitter at MissAnthroBob. And if you want to email me, you can find my email address. But you're not going to email me. I just get spam.
I mostly get spam too, but I have gotten 2 emails from people insisting that I should play Kingdom Hearts, so if you want to do that, you should email me at Sollosi@rpgfan.com or retro@rpgfan.com. That's the Retro Encounter official email account, but I'm the one that checks it, so basically you're messaging me if you email retro@rpgfan.com. I'm Monsoon on the boards and at The Real Monsoon on Twitter for most of my stuff, but if I want to go on to a rant about Japanese superheroes, I use my second Twitter account, Evoker for Dogs.
That's the best name.
I was very happy that one wasn't taken when I wanted to just, make lists about Persona characters and Kamen Riders. Thanks for listening with us. We have been Retro Encounter. Thank you, good night, and good luck. In touch with the